Welcome to the Crystallized Mind, a sacred work on the purification of thought, the strengthening of consciousness, and the alignment of the mind with higher truth. Each chapter is an invitation into greater clarity, greater discipline, and greater inner power. We now enter Chapter 1.
Crystallized Mind. Chapter 1, The Holy Weight of Thought. You think a life is ruined by its large betrayals. This is not so. A life is usually bent long before its collapse becomes visible. It is bent in thought. A thought is not yet a deed, but it is never nothing. Thought is the inner tilt of the soul. It is the first leaning. It is the subtle bow. It is the invisible permission from which speech gathers, action forms, and habit enters the bloodstream of a life. For this reason, the wise place great weight upon thought, while the careless treat it as vapor. But the invisible is not weightless merely because the dull cannot measure it. Every action was first rehearsed in some hidden chamber. Every pattern was granted lodging before it asked for public form. Every destruction arrived first as inward tolerance. The hand did not begin the fall, the mind began it. The mouth did not begin the corruption, the mind began it. The soul did not wake one morning already exiled from peace. It drifted there by repeated inner consent. So the first law must be understood. Thought is not private in the way people imagine. It may be unseen by others, but it is never sealed off from consequence. What is thought in secret becomes atmosphere. What becomes atmosphere begins to shape perception. What shapes perception begins to govern choice, and what governs choice eventually appears as character, relationship, labor, speech, and fate. Therefore, one who would live under the Most High must stop handling thought as though it were cheap. The untrained mind imagines that danger begins when darkness becomes obvious. This is why it is often too late in its seeing. It believes the problem began when the action occurred, when in truth the action was only the ripened fruit of a permission long protected. The wise reverse this blindness. They learn to detect corruption in seed form. They become alert not merely to what they do, but to what they inwardly entertain. They listen for the first crooked whisper, not the final shout. For the beginning is where power is greatest. A tree is harder to uproot than a seed is to refuse. A fire is harder to master once the whole field is burning than when the first spark lands in dry grass. So it is with thought. Once an inner pattern has been fed with repetition, defended with explanation, and baptized with self-justifying language, it becomes difficult to dislodge. But in its first appearance, it is often weak. It only becomes strong because it is hosted. Understand this well. Many thoughts do not conquer because they are mighty. They conquer because they are welcomed. A person says, it is only a passing thought. Yet a passing thought that is tasted becomes an invited guest. An invited guest that is repeatedly entertained becomes a counselor. A counselor that is never judged becomes a ruler. Then the soul is surprised to discover that what it once called harmless now speaks with authority inside its house. So the first discipline of mind is not endless self-observation born of fear. It is sober reverence. It is the recognition that the inner world is holy ground, and not every voice deserves to walk there. A temple is not protected because stone is fragile. It is protected because what happens within it is sacred. In the same way, the mind is not guarded because thought is weak. It is guarded because thought is formative. This is where right view begins. Right view is not the ability to repeat correct doctrine while continuing to perceive through a corrupted lens. Right view is the cleansing of sight itself. It is the refusal to let fear interpret reality. It is the refusal to let appetite name what is good. It is the refusal to let pain become profit. It is the refusal to let memory sit on the throne. Right view begins when the soul realizes that the mind must not only think about truth, it must learn to see from truth. Most do the reverse. They allow wounded thought to remain in power and then try to decorate it with sacred vocabulary. They call anxiety discernment. They call appetite authenticity. They call self-protection wisdom. They call bitterness clarity. They call pride conviction. Thus the mind grows dark while the tongue grows skilled. This is why many sound enlightened but remain inwardly unwashed. They have improved their language while leaving perception defiled. Do not do this. If your thought continually leads you away from peace, away from precision, away from restraint, away from inward cleanliness, away from reverence, away from the courage to tell the truth, then it is not a small matter. It is a sign that the inner lens is misaligned. A crooked lens does not merely distort one image, it distorts the whole field. And so another law must be spoken. The soul becomes like the thought it most loyally repeats. Repeat fear, and fear begins to shape the body, the timing, the tone, the expectations, and the emotional weather of the day. Repeat grievance, and grievance becomes a hidden altar before which attention burns like incense. Repeat vanity, and even noble actions become secretly contaminated. Repeat lack, and abundance itself will arrive as suspicion. Repeat lust, and the eye will lose the ability to behold without consuming. Repeat resentment, and even mercy will begin to taste like weakness. But repeat what is clean, exact, restrained, luminous, and true, and the mind begins to take on another structure. It becomes less muddy, less porous, less frantic, less seduced by inner noise. Repetition is not merely habit, it is carving. Therefore, do not ask only, what do I believe? Ask, what do I rehearse? For one may profess a holy creed while inwardly rehearsing unholy law all day long. One may speak devotion in public and inwardly serve comparison, fantasy, offense, self-exaltation, revenge, or fear. What you rehearse most. Faithfully will disciple you more deeply than what you occasionally admire. This is why the masters of inner life guard the early morning. They know the first thoughts of the day are not trivial. The mind upon waking is like a field before footsteps. Whatever enters first makes an impression. If the mind rises and immediately kneels to agitation, noise, memory, appetite, and unfinished tensions, then the day begins under invasion. But if the mind rises and first remembers what is highest, then thought begins its labor beneath rightful order. Morning is not magical, but it is revealing. It shows who reaches the throne first. The same is true of night. Many lie down in body while the mind remains kneeling before unrest. They revisit conversations, injuries, fantasies, arguments, unfinished fears, imagine futures, and old wounds, then wonder why sleep becomes labor instead of restoration. But the one who would come under the Most High must learn to close the gate before nightfall, not because trouble never existed, but because the mind was not made to feed on unrest until darkness becomes its second nature. You ask then what a person should do when an unworthy thought appears. First, do not be impressed by its arrival. Not every thought that visits belongs to you. A door is not evil because a thief tests it. The question is whether you unlatch it. The mature do not panic at the presence of temptation, distortion, vanity, rage, fear, or fantasy in seed form. They learn to distinguish between appearance and agreement. Many suffer unnecessarily because they confuse intrusion with identity. A dark suggestion enters and they say, "This is me." No, it is only me if I feed it, defend it, or kneel to it. Second, judge the thought by its fruit. Does it gather you or scatter you? Does it make you more exact or more vague, more honest or more performative, more peaceful or more fevered, more obedient or more self-justifying, more reverent or more casual with the sacred? A thought reveals its lineage by what it produces. The tree is known by its fruit even while it is still growing inside the mind. Third, withdraw admiration quickly. Many are defeated because they spend too much time negotiating with what should have been dismissed. They sit down to reason with a distortion. They entertain it with curiosity. They dress it in sophisticated language. They study it until it grows strong on the altar of their attention. But attention is food. Whatever you keep staring at, you begin strengthening. There's a time for examination, and there's a time for refusal. Wisdom knows the difference. Fourth, replace what is false with what is higher. Mere suppression is not mastery. To deny a crooked thought without enthroning a truer one leaves the chamber vulnerable. Emptiness alone is not purity. A room swept and left unguarded is only waiting for reoccupation. So the mind must be filled with what is weightier than distortion, what is clear, clean, restrained, lawful, and aligned with the Most High. This is how right effort begins, not the frantic effort of self-violence, but the steady effort of returning the mind again and again to rightful object. Fifth, understand that some thoughts persist because they are profitable to the old self. This is hidden knowledge, and many resist it. Not every dark thought remains because you are weak. Some remain because some part of you is being paid by them. Fear may excuse inaction. Bitterness may preserve a false sense of innocence. Fantasy may protect one from the discipline of reality. Self-condemnation may feel holier than humble repair. Pride may save one from kneeling. Until the hidden prophet is named, the thought can wear the mask of victimhood while continuing its rule. So ask yourself without flattery, what does this thought give me that makes me slow to release it? That question will open chambers that softer questions never reach. Now hear another law: the more sacred the calling, the more exact the thought must become. A muddy mind cannot carry high fire for long. It will distort what it receives. It will mix revelation with vanity, insight with hunger, urgency with ego, correction with theatrics. This is why many are granted glimpses but not weight. They have light enough to speak, but not structure enough to bear. The Most High is not honored by brilliance without purification. Better a quiet mind under law than a dazzling mind still serving inner confusion. Do not mistake this for harshness. It is mercy. The cleansing of thought is not punishment. It is preparation. It is how the soul becomes able to carry peace without laziness, clarity without cruelty, power without pride, silence without emptiness, and vision without self-invention. The mind that learns reverence becomes spacious enough for wisdom. The mind that remains crowded with self-noise cannot hear what is fine, exact, and eternal. This is why the path begins so near the root. Not with grand missions, not with public identity, not with impressive language. It begins with the holy weight of a single thought rightly judged. One thought refused can alter a season. One thought enthroned can distort a year. One thought purified can open a gate. One thought repeated can become a law within. So do not despise the small battlefield. The unseen battle is the true one. When thought is corrected, speech changes without strain. When thought is purified, action begins to align. When thought is gathered, effort becomes cleaner. When thought is consecrated, the whole life begins to reorganize around a deeper center. At last, the soul discovers that peace is not first an emotion. It is order. Clarity is not first a mood. It is alignment. Strength is not first intensity. It is government, the crystallized mind. And the mind becomes worthy of trust not when it stops being challenged, but when it stops handing the throne to whatever arrives. This is the opening discipline: to treat thought as sacred weight, to refuse casual agreement with what is lower, to examine the seed before it becomes a forest, to return the inward eye to what is highest, and to remember that every visible life is first written in the silence of the mind. Guard that silence, for there, before any hand has moved, before any word has been spoken, before any destiny has hardened into form, The soul is already deciding what it will mirror. Prayer at the gate of thought. Most High, before my words are formed, before my actions take shape, before my day hardens into consequence, meet me at the gate of thought, the crystallized mind. Teach me to fear inward corruption before it becomes outward ruin. Teach me to recognize the first false leaning before it becomes a settled posture of soul. Do not let me call small what you know is formative. Do not let me treat lightly what quietly writes the pattern of my life. Where my mind has become casual, make it reverent. Where it has become crowded, make it clear. Where it has become restless, make it still. Where it has become permissive with darkness, make it exact again. Show me the thoughts I have flattered. Show me the thoughts I have fed in secret. Show me the old inner agreements that have kept my spirit divided. Let no lies sit in me long enough, the crystallized mind, to learn the shape of my house. Let no fantasy stay in me long enough to become counsel. Let no fear remain in me long enough to speak like truth. Wash the inward lens, purify the seeing behind the seeing, cleanse the chamber where motives gather, where reactions are born, where interpretations are formed, where the soul first bends. Let me not merely speak about truth. Let me perceive through truth. When a crooked thought appears, give me clarity without panic. When a dark suggestion enters, give me discernment without agreement. When an old pattern calls my name, give me strength to refuse it early. Do not let me negotiate with what should be dismissed. The crystallized mind. Do not let me admire what should be judged. Do not let me nourish what should be starved. Most High, retrain the secret habits of mine. Where I have rehearsed fear, teach me steadiness. Where I have rehearsed resentment, teach me release. Where I have rehearsed vanity, teach me holy emptiness. Where I have rehearsed lack, teach me trust. Where I have rehearsed self-protection, teach me surrender. Let the mind learn a better rhythm. Under your order, place weight in me. Not heaviness of despair, but gravity of truth, the crystallized mind. Let me feel that thought is not vapor. Let me know that inward permission matters. Let me remember that what I repeat, I become. And what I host, I strengthen. Make me faithful in the unseen field, so the visible life does not grow from hidden disorder. And where my thoughts have already done damage, where they have shaped speech poorly, where they have bent action, where they have darkened perception, bring mercy without softness toward illusion. Correct me cleanly, heal me deeply, reorder me thoroughly. Let the first bow of my mind belong to what is highest. Let the first throne of my day belong to what is true. Let the first shaping of my inner world come under your light. Make my thought life worthy of peace. The crystallized mind. Make my inward seeing worthy of trust. Make my mind a chamber where truth is welcomed quickly and falsehood is recognized early. I place the gate of thought under your rule. I'll say.
If Chapter 1 resonated with you, like, subscribe, and comment below. Your journey through the crystallized mind is just beginning.